praying intensely before the Lord. And I wrote down what I prayed. And it went like this. I'm reading a lot of things to you today, but bear with me. This is my prayer before the Lord. Establish your kingdom here, Lord. Your kingdom, not the desires of the people. Your kingdom. Dislodge every other kingdom. Bring down every rule and reign that is not yours. Your kingdom with your values and your purposes, things that please you. Build up the revelation. I can smell it, I can sense it. That's where the real conflict lies. Your kingdom versus the rule and will of men. Yeah, there are demons to fight. Yes, there are principalities to oppose. But the real battle is a clash of kingdoms. A clash of philosophies. A clash of approaches to life. A clash of attitudes. A clash of values. And then after I prayed that, the Lord showed me a vision, and my heart just wanted to explode. Because what He showed me was a mental vision of a walled city that was all glorious and glowing within, where the culture in the city was God's. And the character in the city was God's. And the laws in the city were God's. And the attitudes and the expectations of the people within the city were God's. The love in the city was God's. The goals and the purposes of the city were God's. The values that undergirded everything that went on in that city were God's. And the place was filled with light. The place was filled with joy. And the place was filled with miracles. And people were safe within those walls. It was a healing city. People were loved there, and they grew in their gifts and in their personal lives. And the city, here's the interesting thing, the city, I just knew, I couldn't find any better words than this. But the city was established. It was established, it couldn't be shaken. It couldn't be broken. It couldn't be twisted. It wasn't like it descended, and isn't this nice for a month, we had a party, and then you got 3 months of struggle. It wasn't like that at all. It was established. Within those walls, the kingdom of God prevailed. It could not be plundered. It couldn't be polluted. It couldn't be conquered. But the city wasn't closed. It had gates that were wide open so that people could come in and people could go out, so that the population of the city could grow. In fact, growth was the dynamic of the place. That's what kept it glorious. It was the dynamic of the place because the light drew the people to the city. And the Lord impressed upon me that this is what we've been called to establish here in this church, this people, this fellowship. We're called here, and we need to be of one heart and one mind and one soul about it, to establish an unassailable, unthreatenable, unmovable outpost of the kingdom of God that looks and feels just like that vision that I had. But to do that, we have to be united in one purpose, one mind, focused on that one goal. We've all got to want the same kind of church. So as I looked at that, I thought, the kingdom of God is a phrase we throw around all the time. It's kind of like glory. Who knows what glory means? We use it so much. Kingdom of God. Well, I thought, I studied Greek at a graduate level in seminary, and I know that the Greek word for kingdom is basileia. I thought, well, that makes me smart. But then I thought, I better take another look at what basileia means. Basileia is the word for kingdom. So I looked in the original Greek and I researched the background of it. And I realized, first of all, that we've lived in a democracy all of our lives. And what that means is that you and I don't have any concept at all of what a kingdom is. We don't have a clue what a kingdom is. We think we have a vote. But that's not what a kingdom is. And so I began to reestablish, to re-examine the meaning of basileia. And basileia turns out to be an ancient Greek word, the original language of the Bible, turns out to be an ancient Greek word with the original meaning of royal palace. It's where the king lives. And if you think about it, what is a royal palace? It's a defined space with walls and with grounds where the king makes his dwelling place. The dwelling place of God is at hand. Wow, what does that mean? And then I thought, well, isn't that also what a temple is? It's the dwelling place of our heavenly King. So then you go to 1 Peter 2:5. It's a passage you all should know. You also, as living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house for a holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. God has called us to be that incredible, beautiful, light-filled city. Well, then I thought, let's break down the word kingdom. And I began to think about that. You know where kingdom comes from? It comes from the king's dominion. Yeah, but dominion's not a word we use very often either, because we think we have a vote. The king's dominion. So what's the word dominion mean? It means sovereignty or control. It means the territory of a sovereign or a government. So again, it's a defined territory within the boundaries of which the king's word is law. Our calling as a people is to establish the kingdom of God here. The king's dominion, the realm of his authority, without competing philosophies, without competing desires, without competing goals that run counter to the Lord's goal. Last week we celebrated Pentecost. Pentecost was the gift of power to the disciples to extend and expand the boundaries of the kingdom. Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the ends of the earth. Being witnesses to Jesus the Messiah, the King of Israel. It's a vision of, and by the way, again, because we think we have a vote, sometimes we forget that Jesus is the King of Israel. He is the head of the church. The church is his bride, not your service center. Uh-oh. The enemy's done a really good job of convincing men in our culture that they're not the heads of their home. But that's not Bible culture. When Jesus says the church is his bride, he's the head of the home. And we don't get a vote. We say, Jesus, what do you want? And we align ourselves with that because he's not blessing plans that aren't his. So for us to, I keep seeing this vision of that walled city that's well established with these wide open gates. And within the city, there's safety. Within the city, there are supplies. Within the city, there are resources. To establish that city requires a kingdom culture. That's why we can't have competing cultures. We need Jesus culture. There's a kingdom culture that has to do with kingdom values. It has to do with honor, dignity, respect, love, blessing, self-sacrifice. The cross stands at the middle of that culture, and the resurrection gives it life. A kingdom culture. You know what a culture does? A culture, in all those subliminal ways, teaches you what to think, how to feel, gives you a sense of what's right and what's wrong. If you're raised in a culture where it's normal to hate somebody of another race, that's going to feel right to you. You're going to think that's self-evident because that's what you were taught. It's what your culture soaked you in. I like to tease my secretary because she comes from Carolina. And I keep teasing her, I don't know if she's saved because I was saved by the cross, but she's saved, for her it's the cross. I don't know what the cross is. Now I use that example to say that culture teaches you how to speak. And you don't even know it's happening. It feels normal and natural to you.